Hi and welcome to Terry Talks Movies. This time around it's the 10,000 subscriber celebration. There will be giveaways, there will be other things. This is going to be a general movie talk, talking about things I've been watching, things I've seen, things I'm thinking about in the movie realm, and also giving away some stuff to celebrate the wonderfulness of my subscribers and the people who watch this channel in general. So let's get started with it. First off, I found a new cinema locally, which is kind of cool. The usual cinema I go to is the Village Complex, which is about a kilometre up the road, and I usually watch movies that I'm going to see in cinemas there. Then, when I was out Altona Way, and I found a place called Miller Junction, which has a different cinema chain, cinemas. The Village is the local one here, Village Cinemas. The one up at Miller Junction is in Reading Cinemas, which is a different cinema chain, does things differently. So we found out about this a couple of months ago, and I thought I'd just go and see what the cinema's like, and I like it. It's a great cinema. And I had a great time watching a movie there yesterday. Now, the movie I saw is a little bit problematic, but it's kind of interesting as well. I went and saw The Flash. So before I talk about the movie itself, and I've got a few thoughts about that, and I'm going to put a timer up so that people can jump past spoilers, but the cinema is great. Reading Cinema at Miller Junction is a fairly new cinema, and I walked in there and I got myself a cup of coffee, which they charged me $1 for. And the movie ticket itself was about comparable with what I'd pay at a normal cinema. So I got my coffee, and surprised for $1, it's a good coffee. It's not fantastically good, but it's drinkable. And I'm a bit of a coffee snob, so saying it's drinkable is a kind of high praise by some other people's standards. So I go in the cinema. It's actually in their deluxe cinema, of which they have two, and they're called Titan Luxe, which I know either sounds like a third-rate superhero or a condom, but it's pretty good. It's a big stadium kind of cinema. It's got Dolby Atmos speakers all around the walls and on the ceiling. Crisp as hell sound. And the seats are all tiered up, so I get the back row because I decided I'm going to see a big blockbuster superhero movie in the back row. So, I got a few steps in, walking all the way up the amphitheatre to the top row. Get there, and the seats are really wide and comfortable. They recline. They've got a little table there. And I sit down and wait through the 20 minutes of commercials that inevitably cinemas have these days. And just before those ads come up, a QR code comes up on the screen saying I can use my phone to order food and have it delivered to me, just like it was a gold class cinema, which usually costs $10 or $20 more. So I'm happy there, and I didn't order any food. I already had a meal and I had a drink. So I settled down and watched The Flash. If you want to avoid spoilers for the Flash movie, go to this timestamp on the video and you'll skip them. So the movie, I kind of enjoyed the movie. Now, Ezra Miller is a character who incredibly problematic as a human being, and I'm not entirely in love with his interpretation of Barry Allen in The Flash. The movie's based on the Flashpoint comics, and this had already been played out in two other venues previously, the first one being the animated Flash movie that Warner Brothers Animation did, and the second one being the long-running Flash TV series. They played with the ideas from the Flashpoint comics in those. So this is kind of a third iteration, but they took it up to 11, and they did some wonderful things with it. The Flash, who's, of course, his mother died and his father went to jail for it. We know that one from a number of different sources. In this one, Barry Allen finds out he can actually go back in time and goes back, tries to stop his mother from being killed, and changes the universe in a number of ways. And the changes he makes roll back into the Snyderverse, the Man of Steel, Justice League Snyderverse. Things go wrong. He comes back to the present time, only he gets knocked out of the Speed Force beforehand and ends up 10 years ago when he was an 18-year-old. And his 18-year-old self doesn't have superpowers, though he was supposed to get superpowers. And leaving aside all of the Flash stuff, and there are some good things. There's a bit of a bravura bit at the start where the Flash has to rescue people from a hospital which is collapsing into a sinkhole. And he has to rescue a nursery full of babies who are falling out of the building. Got a little bit of feel of Hard-Boiled from that one, where the terrorists are shooting up the hospital and Chow Yun-Fat and all of the cops have got to get the babies out of the hospital. So it's got a little bit of a nod to that. Nice use of CG. It's not realistic in any way. It's comic booky, but it's comic booky in a right way. We also get to see Batfleck again, the Ben Affleck Batman. We get another cameo from another member of the Justice League. And then Barry jumps back in time, ends up back when he was 18. Both his parents are alive and free. But the universe is being attacked by General Zod again, and for some reason there's no Superman. And his 18-year-old self is not the sort of person who's going to become a superhero. So there's a whole bunch of stuff to do with that, but it's kind of okay. I like what it does. They go to find Batman, and the Batman they find isn't the Batman of Ben Affleck and the Justice League Snyderverse. It's Michael Keaton as an old Bruce Wayne living in the mansion. Alfred's died, and he doesn't want to be Batman anymore, but the two Barrys convince him to be Batman, and they've got to go looking for the baby that came to Earth from Krypton, who has, of course, grown up. They find out that there's a Kryptonian in a Russian black site, and they travel there and attack the site and find the person who is being experimented on, who's being held by, you got to presume it's Putin. And it's not Superman, it's actually a version of Supergirl. So they get a whole bunch of stuff there, and these people then have to fight General Zod, who comes to Earth as he did in the Man of Steel Snyderverse. Only they're not up for it. They're not good at it. So they try to keep going back in time and changing things so it has a better outcome when they battle General Zod. Doesn't work out like that. Things start going crazy, and the multiverse starts smashing into each other. The way that multiverse is portrayed in this movie is each universe is a sphere with kind of an amphitheater going into the past. So a whole bunch of different universes start colliding with each other, and that's where the movie gets really, really interesting, because we get some glimpses of other DC universes. We had George Reeves' Superman turning up briefly, which is kind of nice because he was my Superman. We get the Superman of Christopher Reeve, and then beside him turns up Helen Slater's Supergirl. We even get the Lost Superman, the Nicolas Cage Superman, where he fights giant robot spiders from the Kevin Smith movie that was never made. And we get to see a little bit of him, and that's kind of cool as well. It just totally goes to sound. We see a few alternate flashes as well. Yeah, so is the movie good or not? It's a watchable, it's an enjoyable superhero movie. It's got a nice little tag at the end as well, when everything's sorted out and Barry comes back to his own time. One of the things they did, which has pissed off a few people, is there's a stylization to the time dome where each universe in the multiverse is a sphere. The graphics are stylized rather than photorealistic and give it a slight comic book look, and a lot of people are pissed off by that. But I'm willing to go with that. I think it's a bold choice. It also helped with the rendering because there's a lot of CG to render in this. And having it that stylized kind of worked for me. A lot of people say it shouldn't be there, but it worked for me. A lot of people are cheesed off because you get to see George Reeves, who died in about 1959, I think it was. So you get all of this stuff, and a lot of people going, well, you shouldn't bring zombie actors back with CG. There's not enough of them for them to be zombie actors. I think it's more an homage to the history of these characters in media, and it worked for me, and for that reason, it's kind of interesting that they did that. And seeing George Reeves on a large screen as Superman, even just for a few seconds, really tickled my fanboy gland. In fact, I like it so much. The missing Superman from this, there's actually two of them, one of whom is Brent and Ruth, but the other one is the original on large screen Superman, Kirk Allen, who played Superman in the 1948 movie Serial. And in Science Fiction Saturday this week, I'm going to be reviewing the original Superman movie Serial, all 12, I think, episodes, for Science Fiction Saturday, because Superman's ultimately a science fiction movie. Just to summarize on the Flash movie, I don't like Ezra Miller. By all accounts, they are a damaged human being. If I used the wrong pronoun in the past about Ezra Miller, I apologize. But the movie worked. I don't think it's the best superhero movie ever, but I think it's a nice way to tie off the Snyder universe as James Gunn comes in and takes over DC and takes over the superhero franchises that they own, so that they can move into different iterations of various characters in the future. There's going to be a Batman Brave and Bold movie. Of course, there is going to be Superman Legacy as well, so I'm looking forward to both of those because I kind of like superhero movies. The movie isn't making a lot of money. It's not doing well at the box office, possibly because of the revelations about the star of the movie that have come out in the last 12 months, and they are quite serious allegations made against Ezra Miller. I think I'll get the movie on Blu-ray. I don't necessarily need to go 4K for this one, but I like superhero movies and I may well pick it up for that reason. See it if you want to, don't see it if you don't want to. I enjoyed it while I was in that cinema and just grooving on the experience of it. And Reading Cinemas at Millard Junction may be my new favourite local cinema. Happy with that. I was thinking about movies in another context, so we finished with that one. I saw the trailer for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 while I was there. I'd seen it before, but it came up on the big screen. That got me thinking about the Tom Cruise phenomenon, and that thing of Tom Cruise doing a lot of his own stunts, if not all of them, then most of them. Driving jet planes and jumping motorcycles off cliffs, all of that kind of gear. And here's what it came to as a revelation. And it relates to me seeing a movie last week. I watched Fast X, the 10th Fast and Furious movie. And I kind of enjoyed it. It's mad. I kind of like the weirdness of them, and I like the way they build a mythology around the series. The car stunts are pretty good. Some of them are practical car stunts, cameras on cranes and FPV drones and all that kind of thing. Some of it's CG. There's some impossible and incredible stuff that goes on in these movies. And the laws of physics are kind of vaguely adhered to, but not really. And I enjoyed it a lot. It was a fun movie, and I want to see the next two, which are going to be the last Fast and Furious movies. And it occurred to me that it doesn't matter whether it's the actor doing the stunt or not. If Tom Cruise jumps off the cliff on his motorbike or pilots an aeroplane and does all of that stuff, from an audience point of view, it doesn't matter that it's Tom Cruise. Know that the character's doing that, but it doesn't matter that the actor's doing that. The only person it matters to is Tom Cruise. It's all about him and his self-image. Doesn't matter to me whether it's him or a stunt person. Doesn't matter to 90% of the audience watching it. Tom Cruise, in the promotion of this movie, is really pushing the fact that he's doing the stunts. Not many people really care. Let me know if you do, but for me it's just a weird thing. Maybe it's short man syndrome, I don't know. It's important to him that he does them, and he wants it to be important to us, but it's not necessarily going to be important to us. So I had that thought about it and thought, yeah, I'm probably going to go see the movie, but nobody's invested in the character of Ethan Hunt particularly. They just want to see the action. That's a different viewpoint on it than the actor himself has. So that's just my thoughts on that. Now, the other thing is, if you're in Australia, or you can VPN yourself to appear in Australia, one of the supporters of this channel, Umbrella Entertainment, are beta testing a streaming movie and TV series service called Broly, BROLLIE.com.au. And they're inviting people into the open beta. So at the moment it's free, and you can go on that website if you can pretend to be in Australia, or if you are in Australia, and help them troubleshoot their way into getting a viable streaming service up. It's got a whole bunch of exploitation movies. It's got a whole bunch of Australian cinema. It's got Australian TV in there as well. It's got a whole bunch of horror movies and science fiction on it, and serious dramas and documentaries, some of which are Australian, some of which aren't. I took a look through it yesterday, and it's a pretty good selection of what Umbrella has for sale on physical media. So you can do a tasting plate before you buy the physical media, or when it eventually becomes available as a paid streaming service, you can avail yourself of it that way. But I like what they're doing. I like the selection they've got on there already, and they want people to test it to see how the streaming service goes. I don't know whether it's going to be long-term viable or not. I hope it is, because they're nice people. Everyone I've dealt with has been nice. But that may be an interesting streaming service in Australia, which isn't mainstream. It's got the stuff that's a little bit edgy. It's got the stuff that's a little bit retro, but it's an interesting selection, and I wish them well with that enterprise. So you might want to try that if you can. Next thing is Movie Hall. I picked up 5 boxes. I got 5 for $5 at Laverton Market. And they keep getting new stuff at this particular stall I go to. I found some interesting things, which I got for $1 per box. Now, some of them got multiple movies in them, but they're all $1, so I've paid $5 for 5 of them. This one I like. I like the TV series, and the TV series is not available on physical media, but the pilot is. And this one's from Anchor Bay from a while back, and I picked up the pilot of Moonlighting. Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd from the 1980s. It's a TV series that put Bruce Willis on the map. And this is the pilot episode. It's got a audio commentary from Bruce Willis and Glenn Gordon Caron, who was the creator of it. And there's a Bruce Willis screen test on there as well. But because the whole series isn't on physical media, possibly because of music rights, it's not available, because there's a lot of music used in the series, and getting the rights to it's a non-trivial task. But I could at least get the pilot, and I thought I'd watch that. Liked the series at the time, wanted to revisit it. For $1, I'm going to take a punt on something like that. Next one is a 1970 science fiction movie, which is what I call shopping mall future, where the whole future looks like a shopping mall. And a lot of people like this movie. I think it's kind of okay, but I'm not in love with it. It was based on a novel by William F. Nolan and George Clayton Johnson. Logan's Run. It's on NTSC, so I think it's an American disc. It's got a bunch of extras on it, but this one's in widescreen, fortunately. I did check. Didn't have a copy of Logan's Run, so I may review it for a future video and just see whether it holds up as well as it did when I first watched it. For $1, totally worth it. Next one's a series from a few years ago with Tom Hiddleston and Hugh Laurie in it, based on John le Carré's work, The Night Manager. Short-run series about a spy, I think. Don't know much about it, but for $1, I'm going to give it a go. Tom Hiddleston, obviously, trying to get a James Bond kind of thing going there. Don't know much about it, giving it a go. Next one's an Academy Award winning movie. This is a 2-disc special edition with the slipcase. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Jack Nicholson, Louise Fletcher. It's got a commentary by Milos Forman, Michael Douglas and Saul Zanes. It's got a behind-the-scenes documentary and making of 2001 digital transfer from restored elements. I think I may already have this. I'm not going to look, but I think I may. Either way, it's a solid edition of this. And for $1, if I don't keep it, I can pass it on to somebody else, or else I can give it to a charity store. And then I got a 3-movie collector's pack of 3 Robin Williams movies. The Survivors with Walter Matthau, Moscow on the Hudson, which is an underrated movie, and The Fisher King with Jeff Bridges and directed by Terry Gilliam. I didn't have a copy of The Fisher King, so I picked this up. For $1, that's a solid buy to me. It's really a good, solid, interesting, and worthwhile pickup. So before I get to the giveaways, and there are 5 giveaways I'm doing, future of the channel. Now, the channel is going to be going into the future. We're getting more subscribers. We're getting a lot more views. I really like that. And thank you to everybody who's left a comment or watched a video or subscribed or supported through Patreon or just sent me an email. Really love the support I'm getting, and it means an incredible lot to me. In future, I'm going to be doing a few different things on the channel occasionally. I'm looking into doing some kind of Zoom discussions with other people about movies, and I'm going to approach a few people soon and just see if they want to have like a 30 or 40 minute chat about movies and see how that goes. They're not going to be in as high a visual resolution as these ones, because recording Zoom calls or Skype calls doesn't give you 4K resolution, but I want to make it interesting enough that we're going to have a good time with it. Got a few people I know who are really good at talking about the movies they're interested in, and I'd like to pick their brains about them as well. They have divergent viewpoints to me in some cases, but I'm going to work on that and kind of approach them to see what we can do. So there's going to be a little bit of that sometime in the future. Want to do more movies. I'm going to keep Science Fiction Saturdays going, but the 2 other videos I do each week are going to be about a diverse range of genres. So if you're here for the science fiction, great, but maybe try the other stuff I do as well, because I'm going to try to put in a few other things. They're also going to be the ones where I unbox things that are sent to me as reviewed copies, let you know what's coming out. So I've got that one. That then gets us to the giveaways. I've got 5 giveaways, as I said, and I'm going to do this in an unusual way. If you're a subscriber to the channel or a Patreon person, I'm going to leave an email address on both of those platforms. So my Patreon subscribers are going to get an email address that I've got, and the subscribers who look in the community tab on the video will have that email address as well. And here's what I want you to do. I've got 5 giveaways. Some of them are Zone B, some of them are multi-region, and not everybody's going to get the one they want. So I want people who are interested in it and are willing to give me their addresses if they win. I will send them either the first, second, or third choice they make out of the 5 prizes available. I'll put them in a hat for that, pick out the 5 winners and notify them by email. If you don't want me to advertise who won, I won't use your name unless I have permission. But you have to be a subscriber and look at the community tab, or you have to be a Patreon supporter to put your name down. Now, the closing date for those email submissions is this, and after that, the special email address I've got for competitions goes dormant until the next competition. So, having said that, let's look at what the 5 prizes are, and they're pretty good. Umbrella Entertainment supplied some of these. I got one of them myself, but they supplied most of them, and thanks to Umbrella for that as well. First one is the 2 Terrifier movies. This is not the box set that I got with the booklets and all of the extras and the pair of glasses and all the stickers. This is the 2 movies themselves and the extras that are on the discs. They're both Region B, but if you're into horror and you wanted to get the Terrifier movies, that's the first prize. Pretty good. There's about $80 worth of discs here in Australian dollars, which is like $13.20 American. Second thing is, I had a buy 2 get 1 free at JB Hi-Fi and I accidentally bought something twice. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania on 4K, sealed in box. The 4K, of course, is region free, but I suspect that the DVD that comes with the 4K may well be region locked. So if you want it for the 4K, you can get that. If you have a multi-zone Blu-ray player, you can get that as well. But just be aware, if you only have a zone-locked Blu-ray player, this won't play for you. That's the second prize. Third one is 2 more movies from Umbrella, one of which is, in fact, they're both region unlocked. They're all region discs. First one is a 1970s Australian drama called The Devil's Playground, directed by Fred Skepsey. Classic Australian film you're going to want to see. Really works well. It's a movie that I recommend highly. And the other thing is The Love Witch, Anna Biller's The Love Witch, which also has on disc 2 her other film, Viva. It's kind of a 1970s style horror movie with a very feminist slant to it. I like what it does. It's a goofy film, The Love Witch, and very personal. And this one is a lot of fun. I've reviewed it on the channel. You should check it out. But they're together as number 3. Number 4 is 2 horror movies, one of which I may have spoken about recently on the channel. First one is, actually I've spoken about both of them on the channel, and these are sealed in box. They're Region B. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is the first one. And yeah, it's an interesting film. I don't think it's the best horror film ever, but it's transgressive, it's silly. It's not a great film, but it's the first public domain Winnie the Pooh movie, which is about all you can say about them. But the second one is Twisted Nerve, that I talked about last week on the channel. In fact, in the last video. Hugh Bennett and Hayley Mills. Horror movie, really interesting, from 1968. This is a limited edition of 1,000, so that's not a shabby thing at all. It's got a J card in it. Really nice presentation from Umbrella. And that goes with the Winnie the Pooh. I've got the box set of Winnie the Pooh. I don't need this one. Then we get to the best of the best. This one's going to be on everyone's list to get. I don't know whether it's region locked. I don't think it is. According to another movie review channel, it'll play on all players, but I can't guarantee that. Again, it's a 1500 limited edition. Mad Monster Party. The Rankin Bass Monster Kid movie from the 1960s. It's a beautiful transfer, this one. With the voice of Boris Karloff, it's got Phyllis Diller in it as well. It's a classic of 1960s Monster Kid movie making. Whole bunch of special features on the back, which I think are the special features from previous editions. But this one's wrapped in plastic, so it's sealed. And if you're into horror movies at all of a certain era, you're going to want to put your name down for this one. So that's it for this time around. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You can also support the channel by donating at patreon.com/TerryTalksMovies. As I said on Saturday for Science Fiction Saturday, I'm reviewing the 1948 Superman movie serial, which I'm looking forward to going back in, and they have some interesting special effects in that one, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But until then, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Thank you again for being a supporter of this channel. It means a lot to me, and I'll catch you next time.